Is your Bright Dust account ridiculously low? Are you wondering how you're going to afford the 6,000 Bright Dust bundle for Solstice Glows, or 18,000 if you want it for all characters? Well, the Bright Dust economy has been completely destroyed since Season of Opulence, and since Shadowkeep, there has been only one way to earn Bright Dust. You guessed it, bounties. Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look at the most effective way to grind Bright Dust in Season of Arrivals. I have been doing this every week since Shadowkeep, since Bright Dust is literally the only scarce resource in the game, and it is almost quite impossible to rapidly get some within 1 week. Thus farming it over multiple weeks is really the only solution. So how do we get Bright Dust, you ask? Well, there's two sources. There's one, the weekly bounties from the 3 main vendors, and then 2, the repeatable bounties from the same vendors. I will go over my method of farming these and getting them done as fast as possible, especially the Gambit ones. Let's do some math. Each weekly bounty drops 200 Bright Dust. That is 1,200 Bright Dust if you can do all of them on one character. Do it on 3 characters gets you 3,600 Bright Dust, which is almost enough to buy 1 exotic emote. That is practically all you can do in 1 week without touching repeatables, which I don't really recommend unless you're in a hurry for a small amount of Bright Dust. Repeatables drop 10 Bright Dust, but you can only hold 5 at a time. So this would require getting extremely lucky with your bounties, like getting the exact enemy type you need, then hopefully getting them done within that mission or 2, then going back to the tower every time to pick up till you have 5 again. Oh, and did I mention they cost 3,000 Glimmer, so you might need to farm that to farm these. In short, repeatables are terrible. Pick them up if you can, but otherwise try to aim just for the weeklies. Also keep in mind that during events, the weekly bounties have had their rewards include Bright Dust as well. Dawning and Guardian games have had that 200 Bright Dust weeklies, and Solstice more than likely will have that as well. So that is 1,600 Bright Dust per character, or 4,800 Bright Dust per account during events. Let's start off with the easy weeklies. Vanguard weeklies require 3 strikes, and then usually require a certain amount of enemy or burn kills, and then the other bounty usually is a certain boss type as well. This season's theme is Taken, Fallen, and some Hive, so expect a lot of these types of bounties. What I recommend is running the 3 strikes in the Vanguard playlist and hope you get lucky. Match the burn to get your pinnacle reward, and after the 3 strikes, hopefully you progress somewhat on your bounties. If you are missing some, launch a destination strike directly to finish your bounties. Since the bounties are Taken or Fallen themed mostly, I recommend running the Lake of Shadows or Exodus Crash to finish them up. You can always find a group and go finish your bounties by ditching the strike and going into Lost Sector with the enemy type you need. Next up is Crucible. These usually require a certain element to be used or a certain amount of games/wins and kills. No matter what, you will finish these bounties in 5 games as it gives you 20% every game for free. So just choose your favorite playlist and get 5 games out of the way. If you want to speed it up, then find the element your bounty requires, use that elemental super, special weapon, and heavy, and you could get this done in less than 5 games, but don't try something too fancy that you don't perform as you usually do. Lastly, the Gambit bounties. By far the worst weeklies in the game. I've actually made specific builds for these bounties that get them done as fast as possible. And what is funny is that these builds and grinding these bounties has put me in the top 50 of Gambit Prime players. So the Gambit bounties consist of only 3 variants. There's the Do It bounty, which I believe is almost guaranteed every week, which requires 5 points, with wins counting as 3 and losses counting as 2, so in the end you will be done in the 3 games no matter what. Then the other bounty seems to rotate between Might of the Traveler and the On the Grind bounty. This is most definitely a lie. The Might of the Traveler is the weekly bounty 80% of the time and is by far the most annoying bounty to grind. If you get the On the Grind bounty, we are lucky that week as it just requires playing Gambit and can be completed almost the same time as the Do It bounty. If it's the Might of the Traveler week, then strap in. You might be in Gambit for a while. Yeah, I made some loadouts can no joke get this bounty done in 2 games if you pull it off, if not 3. And before we go into the build to get this bounty done, let's look at it. Earn points by casting supers, defeating enemies with supers, and creating orbs of light. From my research dealing with this bounty, casting a super gives around 5 to 8 points, so we need an exotic or build that constantly gives us super. We also need a super that is deadly to kill as much enemies as possible. So to start, I just wanted to say, yes, you can play regular Gambit since there's multiple rounds, but I just prefer Gambit Prime as the games move quicker, and I can get the games done quicker for my other bounties. So let's look at the builds. Remember, we want a super that both allows us to have it up as often, but also kills stuff. Just a general tip, all my builds are usually around grenades, and that is because the enhanced Ashes to Assets, super energy off grenade kills, is my favorite mod, as well as grenades allowing for armaments to proc. Lastly, I run Mountaintop, Icarus SMG with anti-barrier rounds to work with the Breach Resonator, and then Deathbringer, the most underrated exotic. Make sure your weapons are masterworked, as they can generate orbs of light. If you want to focus just on the bounty, don't worry about invading, but if you want to win and no one is invading, then take it. So let's start with Warlock. When you're on Warlock, you have a couple options, but my favorite and by far the most effective in my opinion is Top Tree Dawnblade with Sunbracers. I actually made a video on this a while back. Combine that enhanced Ashes to Assets and boom, you might get your super in a wave if the enemies are grouped up. To start this, Icarus your way to the wave to be there first. Get your melee off on a red bar, then throw grenades everywhere. If you remain in the air while your grenades are getting kills, you will recharge your melee ability completely. Repeat until you realize you got your super within a minute. Some additions to this build to make it even more busted is to run double breach refactor in an anti-barrier rounds weapon in case you mess up the combo and need your abilities. Also, the most broken part is armaments. Oh, hive enemies, fallen enemies, put on their armaments and you will have unlimited heavy ammo. Not broken at all. I would like to acknowledge there are probably some other weapons or mods to assist with getting your super, but I usually like to win the Gambit games and run this decent loadout. Keep supering a fresh wave when you get it, and go back to making Shax proud and throwing more grenades. When you're on Hunter, you again have multiple options, but I went for a build that revolves around Shards of Galanor, as Blade Barrage both kills enemies while recharging super with Shards, which is exactly what the bounty requires. This is why I shifted off the Orpheus Rig Night Stalker. For this build, it's going to be a little weird, as I build around my grenade again just like Warlocks. Grenades are insane and I tested it. Enhanced Ashes to Assets and a regular Ashes to Assets is probably the best super option on the class item. Plus grenades could mean free heavy if you have armaments. You could opt for a hands-on build on the class item, but I just prefer grenades. So here it is. Blade Barrage with Shards and Enhanced Ashes to Assets ×2, or have a regular, the difference isn't that noticeable. Then put Enhanced Impact Induction ×2, or another regular, on your gauntlets, your Shards. This allows melee damage to recharge your grenade. So run Gambler's Dodge and go to throwing your knives, dodging an enemy to get your melee back, and keep this up. Throw a nade at a group of enemies and get a chunk of your super. Hunter is probably the hardest grind for the bounty, but once you get your super up, as long as you hit a lot of people with Blade Barrage, you will recharge over half of it back. This allows you to pick up orbs and go back to killing for a little bit and keep cycling it in. When you're on Titan, you have probably the best option in my opinion. Doomfang Pauldron with Bottom Tree Sentinel can sometimes clear 2 waves. Not to mention, Doomfang gives you an insane amount of super energy off a shoulder charge. A substitute I was thinking for this would be adding Monte Carlo and then just constantly meleeing, but I just love Deathbringer too much. I pair this with, again, Enhanced Ashes Assets like my other builds because grenades are just too good. I also put Enhanced Impact Induction on my Doomfangs to get my grenade back every time I shoulder charge. So to start this build off, you want to throw your grenade at a group, then shoulder charge another group, then throw your recharge grenade at the last remaining enemies. If you get a multi-kill with your shoulder charge, you could get your super in one wave. After you do get your super, try to keep it up by throwing your shield. You might even be able to bring it to the next wave and allow you to get insane progress on your bounty. Woo, that bounty was fun, right? Right?
Am I right or am I right? I'm right.
So this is the Gambit bounties. If you do follow these builds and focus on supering, hopefully you will get them done in 3 games. If you get rolled by the Gambino crime family or you try to have to invade, you might not be able to get them done as fast and have to suffer longer in Gambit. Well guys, that is all the ways to get Bright Dust. Go for the weeklies and pick up any repeatables while you're at it. Complete them and look for an event bounties that might pop up. Else, the slow weekly grind of Bright Dust on each character will definitely test your strength for this game. I've been doing this since Shadowkeep and have been fighting the last drips of my Bright Dust reserves, but this season's Everest has been a lot of repeatables, so I've been able to save some. So hopefully you find this kind useful and have started your agonizing grind for Bright Dust for whatever you want, glows, emotes, or whatever. Thankfully Bungie has acknowledged their terrible system and is changing it in Beyond Light, but until then, you have to do this weekly grind to barely stay afloat in the Bright Dust economy. Thanks for watching gamers, and I will see you in the next one.